And Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio, joined by our friend, Congressman John LeBoutelier. Congressman, how are you?
Kevin, happy 2018. I'm doing well. How about you?
Still employed, and in this business, that's a good thing.
That's true. Talk radio is going through a tough time right now.
I guess in any business, that's really a good thing. Not unique to talk radio.
No, but anyway, you're good at what you do, so don't worry too much.
Well, I appreciate that. So let's just start off with this one. Is the president good at what he's doing?
Well, I don't know what he's doing. I mean, it depends on how you define it. It's a mixed bag with Trump. I think that if we look at the big picture, he's implemented a traditional conservative Republican agenda of federal judges being appointed. That's good. Deregulating. That's good. And the corporate tax cut, which he had promised to do during the campaign, and he didn't. So that's the highlights of 2017. There are lowlights, too. So it's a mixed bag. But the agenda part, I think, is good.
Well, he's been taking a beating from this Michael Wolff book. What do you make of that?
Well, I've read a third of the book, and I read all the excerpts before the book came out, and it's pretty devastating to Trump. It paints a picture from Trump's own aides that is not flattering to Trump. He'll survive it. The reaction to it is why he did this very strange cabinet room meeting with the congressional leadership yesterday and let it be put for just under an hour, Kevin, on live national TV, which we've never had that before. And I'm not sure that it showed a president with any convictions at all. He said during the meeting, I'll do whatever everybody in this room wants to do. And that's not what he was elected to do. He was elected to implement what he promised to do, not to defer to Democratic members of Congress.
John LeBoutelier joining us here. So as someone who has worked in the halls of power and everything else, what do you make of this book that you're halfway through?
A third of the way through. I believe the book. It doesn't surprise me. It paints a not very flattering portrait of Donald Trump. Doesn't surprise me. I've known Trump myself since 1983 here in New York, and I've never been a big fan of Donald Trump. So this book doesn't surprise me.
I see. Our great friend, Congressman John LeBoutelier, joining us here. Kevin Miller in the morning on KIDO Talk Radio. You seem pretty, you're holding back this morning, it seems.
No, not really. You're asking me questions. I'm not holding back. I mean, I'm not a fan of Trump. I've never hid that from you or from your listeners or any show that I'm asked to be on. I'm not a fan of his. And I think that it will end up being a big black mark on the Republican Party that we, in effect, got taken over by Donald Trump. And the reason over the years that I never liked Trump was he was never a Republican. He was a Democrat, gave money to the Democrats, was a liberal on the issues. And to have him suddenly come along and take the Republican Party over and have all these people swoon around Donald Trump, it's just frankly made me sick to see it. Because he's not a Republican, and he'll end up betraying the Republicans.
Indeed. What does it say, though, to the strength of the Republican Party that he got elected when probably no one else could have?
Well, he's the only one that could win that nomination. I think any of them could have beaten Hillary Clinton. Hillary's the worst candidate that ever ran. And I think she's the only one that Trump could have beaten. And only Hillary could have lost to Trump. But that election's over. We're not going to relitigate it, so we got to move on.
When we
because Hillary had more baggage than Trump. The two of them are the two most distrusted political candidates in the United States to this day. They each have over 60% disapproval and 60%, 62% in Hillary's case who think she's dishonest.
And yet Donald Trump was elected. So let's take a look at where do we go with this DACA decision, this semi-quasi news conference yesterday, and now this judge in California is saying the president doesn't have the power to get rid of an unconstitutional program. I'm sure that's going to be in a political science class one year.
Yeah, definitely. But it'll all be superseded when they pass a law, and that's what they were talking about in this televised meeting in the White House yesterday. And, I think there's going to be legislation. Trump would like to link it up to building the wall. The Democrats say no wall. Trump's own Homeland Security Chief Secretary Nielsen, who was deputy to John Kelly, and he also said is we don't need a physical wall the whole way. Part of it can be a wall, part of it can be barriers, part of it can be drones and human beings guarding the border. They're going to make a deal. I think Trump will make a deal. And there'll be parts of this thing will be the Trump wall, and parts won't be. And I think that's the compromise. They'll do it. And they will give legal protection to the 800,000 DACA kids. That's going to get done, in my view, before March is over.
Well, that would be a win for both parties, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, that's a welcome to politics. That's called compromise. And that's how you get things done. And I think that's where they're headed. Now, it came up yesterday, other things that blew Republicans' minds when Trump said he was willing to do a pathway to citizenship. That is not what he ran on, and that is not what I've ever found any Republican is in favor of. That are, some of them are, but most of them aren't. That if you break the law as an adult, Kevin, you break the law to come into this country and stay here, should you at some point be allowed to become an American citizen? And most Republican people I know say no. You forfeit your right to be a citizen of this country. But we could give you something less than citizenship, like permanent resident status, where you're here legally, you can't vote, you're not a citizen, but you're not getting thrown out either. And I think that's where most Republicans are. And for the president yesterday and Chuck Grassley to say, we're in favor of a pathway to citizenship, that is too much. And there will be a revolt on the right if he tries that.
Well, as George Bush found out.
Yeah, and this is why I never wanted Trump, because he doesn't believe in anything. He's not a conservative. His gut is not conservative. And he will sell out as he did in business. You find me anybody who ever was working with this guy or did business with him who was happy about it in the end. They all felt they got screwed by Trump. And that's where the Republicans are going to end up. When we're finished with Trump, whether it's in 4 years, 8 years, 1 year, whatever, the Republican Party is going to look in the collective mirror and go, oh, my God, we got conned and screwed.
Yeah, but Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan, they're not dummies either, though.
No, they're I don't think they'll go along with a pathway to citizenship. If they do, they're doing it at their own peril politically.
Well, you've heard people describe that. For folks, by the way, our great friend Congressman John LaBoutelier joining us, Kevin Miller in the morning here at KIDO Talk Radio. Now, if people want to get a hold of you or your podcast or read your articles and blogs, what can they do, sir?
JohnLaboute.com. JohnLebout. One word, JohnLaboute.com. And it's all there. And the podcast, thank you for mentioning it. It's called Revolution _ the podcast. I do it with Arlene Bynum from Toronto. And it's on SoundCloud and iTunes, or you can go to JohnLaboute.com and it's there.
Boy, you're getting all hip in the modern age, sir.
I know. I've had to come down the learning curve.
So when we get back to the whole midterms, as someone who has been elected, run again and again, people say it's going to be disaster for the GOP. Your thoughts?
Well, it's too early in January to know about November, but there are some trend lines that are worrisome for Republicans. The president's approval rating is low. The generic ballot question, which party do you want to control Congress in 2018? The Democrats are about 11 points ahead in most polls on that, which is a huge, when you're double-digit lead, that's a big warning sign. The Democrats have candidates up the kazoo running in every race, and their fundraising's going well. And the big thing I always talk about for off-year midterm elections is the passion differential. Which side, frankly, is more ticked off about something? Because they're the ones that are going to vote. And based on Virginia, New Jersey in November, Alabama, obviously with the Roy Moore one, the Democrats are more ticked off. It's the women, minorities, and young people, I think, are going to vote in this November in higher numbers than they normally do. And I'm not sure if our Republican voters are going to vote in high numbers or stay home. That's what worries me, the passion differential.
Final thought, as someone, again, you've been on the big Fox, you've had the shows there, you know everybody, you've been to the White House, you've worked with these leaders, you're a big deal. Why would anyone in their right mind let a guy, and you know Michael Wolff, why would anybody let Michael Wolff, apparently according to Michael Wolff, and people don't dispute this, hang out in the White House, gather up all this gossip, whether it's substantiated or not, and really publish this hit piece?
Oh, it's a great question. I don't have a clue. I mean, it shows the absolute chaos in this White House that they would have this guy in the lobby sitting there all day, buttonholing people, saying, oh, can I talk to you? And the word had come down, go ahead and cooperate with Michael Wolff. And by the way, that was in the first 7 months of the Trump presidency. Most of the staff of the first term has already left. They're now gone. You know, they were there while Wolff was there. Bannon's gone, Priebus is gone, Spicer's gone. Their others are gone. And it's the nature of Trump world, this constant turnstile personnel situation where people come, they go, they quit. It's a mayhem. It's no way to run anything, by the way. And what fell through the cracks was this guy. And this thing has caused a big problem for Trump. It's hurting Trump, this book. It's huge.
Well, but again, I find it odd that people would let this guy just hang out. I mean, going into the White House, even as a congressman, you have to sign in each and every day. You get your daily pass, and you're supposed to be in a certain section. It's really regimented. So
they gave him what I read. He got one of these blue passes, which allows him to be in most areas of the White House.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's insane. But welcome to the Trump operation. It makes no sense.
Did you ever get a blue pass?
Well, whatever I had. I mean, I haven't been to the White House since, I was in Congress in the 80s, and then I was there in the early 90s under the first Bush. I've never been back to the White House. I don't know what the hell pass I got, but when you're a congressman, you can go anywhere you want.
Oh, that's good to know. And finally, in addition to the final question, Steve Bannon, again, our great friend Congressman John LeBoutelier joining us here, Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Here's a guy, and again, you've been around a long time. I've been around a long time. Steve Bannon, relatively new to the scene, showing up as a documentary filmmaker, 2007, 2008. Then all of a sudden, this rise to power, Breitbart's rise to prominence, and then from the highest of highs to getting the boot yesterday. What's your take on how what the rise and fall of Steve Bannon?
I think the guy's a megalomaniac. I've been in Republican politics since the late 70s. I never heard of this guy until the 3 months of the Trump campaign, when suddenly they appoint this guy the chief strategist. And for all my criticism of Trump, I'm very consistent about saying that politically, Donald Trump is a sharp cat. This guy, he ain't dumb. And Steve Bannon had virtually nothing to do with Donald Trump winning that election. That was Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. And Bannon, who'd never been in Republican politics fighting for any cause that I ever heard of, suddenly has parlayed this into being, Karl Rove and all that. And he's not. He's not. He's a odd duck. And I couldn't care less what happens to him. I don't like the alt-right. I don't believe in it. I like regular conservatism, not this alternative nationalism, racist stuff. I think this is dangerous to the country, and I think it's good that he's gone.
Yeah, crazy, though, as someone who, again, you've been in these places, that you could get this level of prominence and then lose it, and then lose your gig that got you to that level to begin with.
I know. Well, usually when you go up real fast, you usually go down real fast. And that's what happened to him. So
finally,
I'm not sure we're going to be hearing much about Bannon ever again.
Finally, your thoughts on what we should expect in the next few weeks.
Well, big things obviously this immigration stuff as part of next week's budget. They have to do a continuing resolution by a week from Friday, and they're going to. And they keep, punting these contentious issues like DACA, immigration, health care, children's health insurance program. They've got to do all this stuff. And they're going to do it. But we don't know how it's going to end up. I think the Democrats are wielding more power than they should, mainly because the Republicans are divided with each other. So look for some contention in the next few weeks.
Congressman LeBoutelier, one more time, if people want to get a hold of you.
Thanks, Kevin. It's www.johnlebout, JOHNLEBOUT.com.
Well, thank you, sir. You have a great day.
Same to you, Kevin. Anytime. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, sir.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there we have it from Congressman LeBoutelier. Coming up, your thoughts, your reactions next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And Steve in Meridian. Steve, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. Thanks for the call. I listened to the last gentleman, John LeBoutelier, and he mentioned of himself that he's a politician since the 70s, and he was negative in all aspects towards Trump. And I just have to say, I hope in the future, Kevin, that the better powers that be in your discretion, you don't give him such a platform again. I think his point of view, no matter what, is going to spin it negative towards Trump. I mean, heck, let's think about Trump. He won the election, defeated evil Hillary. He boldly has called out the media like nobody before. He's a man of significant wealth and luxury, over 70 years old, and he could have just rode off into the sunset in ease and comfort. Instead, he submitted himself, President Trump did, to the crazy, arduous task of serving as our president and submitting himself to this incredible scrutiny. Video and audio follow him 24/7, and if anybody had that on their back all day long, somebody could spin it unfavorably instead of looking at Trump's strengths. And I can only say that a typical New Yorker submitted in that liberal culture, even if, quote, a Republican, is going to be buying into a lot of the lies, like this recent book. And I just have to say, from the culture of people who have eyes to see, we can call it for what it is, that no matter what people are seeing as facts and information about Trump said this, Trump said that, eventually you have to see it for what it is, that they're trying to spin it in a way to make him look bad, when in fact he's not a perfect man. Maybe he's not very gracious at times, but let's ride his strengths, and if we stand together, we can make some positive changes, like build a wall, and let's get our country safe and free from troublemakers who want to come in. So I just had those many thoughts to stand up for our great president. Not that he's a perfect guy, not that I give him credit for the bad things he may have said or done, but I'm going to stand behind him on his strengths, and let's make some positive changes in this country and not buy into the negativity that people spin of him. So that's what I had to say.
I appreciate that. So you're ready to give John LaBoot the boot.
Let's give him a boo for good. He's an old, washed-up, typical politician, and he's exactly who Trump was elected to get out of the system. This LaBoot guy may have a radio show. He may have iTunes, this and that. Who cares? I heard him for 10 minutes driving this morning, and I've heard enough of LaBoot for a lifetime. He had no positive solutions at all. He had nothing positive to say. If I want negativity, I'll turn on the news. If I want solutions and people can say, you know what? Trump may have been an ungracious man and this or that, but boy, I sure like how he withstood incredible pressure to cave in, and he did not. And so Trump does have integrity, and he does have a lot of things he stands for, even though in this video clip of some meeting of leadership yesterday or something, he may not have shown it. Let's look at the big picture. Let's keep praying for Trump and supporting him. And, yeah, LaBoot, see ya. You're washed up, buddy. You're old news. So that's all I've got to say. Thank you for the call, Kevin.
Steve, thank you. Appreciate Steve and Meridian listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Time for traffic and weather together. And let's go to Donna in Parma with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Donna.
Good morning, Kevin. Thanks for taking my call. I wanted to make a comment that the broadcast yesterday of the president and all the people around the big table, that was awesome because the swamp creatures were at the table, and if the American people can see what really goes on, I just think that's great.
Well, it's something we've never seen before.
Well, I watch Fox, so, you know, what can I say? I'm an old conservative, and, I mean, that's all.
Well, there's nothing wrong with watching Fox. In fact, we're proud of our affiliation with Fox News here in the Treasure Valley. What impressed you about that? It's funny because even CNN said the president did a good job. Now, I like to, sometimes I like a little, I guess we'll say it's spice. So I was watching Nicole Wallace yesterday.
Okay.
And she and Steve Schmidt, now remember, both Republicans, they were going crazy with wild speculation that this proves the president has lost his mind and advocating for the 25th Amendment to be, crazy. Those folks at MSNBC.
That is so absurd.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think some of the people have lost their mind. And another great concern is our country is so divided. It scares me.
Well, I think they like it that way because they've lost. They're sore losers.
Oh, most definitely. And I called you a couple of years ago and said, it was another comment. I said, just wait. The Democrats are going to shoot themselves in both feet. Well, I love it when I'm right.
Well, Donna, you're always right.
Oh, well, thank you, dear. You have a great day. And, it's just another beautiful day here in paradise in Parma. Thank you, Kev, and have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, I really like that. Paradise in Parma. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie.
Good. The report released by Democrats on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee says the United States needs to take action now to prevent Russia from meddling in the 2018 midterms and 2020 presidential election. It also says the Trump administration has no coherent approach to the Kremlin's election interference, either abroad or at home. A spokesperson for Republican Senator Bob Corker, who chairs the committee, told Politico he'll review the report, but no immediate action is planned. In Washington, Rachel Sutherland, Fox News.
And there we have it. The Russians, the budget, DACA, so many things going on in Washington. But what about here in the Treasure Valley? A couple things going on. One at a local primal level, we'll get to if we have time. But another one is the state legislature is back in session. And by the way, one of our great friends, House Minority Leader Matt Erpelding, will join us tomorrow. We will speak with him about the legislative agenda, his thoughts on the governor's proposed budget, and whether or not real change, real life will happen. In other words, whether or not something like the grocery tax will be repealed, whether or not our great friend Greg Pruitt and the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance, whether or not we will have a castle doctrine. This is a year, and it's a shame that we don't have more resources to devote to political coverage. How many of us remember when there used to be a reporter that just covered politics? Don't have that in the newspaper anymore. Don't have that on the TV. You don't have it on radio. And really, when we take a look at what's happening in Boise, that's the things that impact our lives. Sure, we can have 6 or 7 beat reporters on college football or the BSU Broncos or something like that. And that's great, and that's wonderful. And, you know, you're not going to get 30,000 people to go to a stadium to watch the folks in the legislature. Most likely not. But on the other hand, at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, it would be nice. Good morning, Tea Party Bob.
Good morning, Mr. Miller. How are you today?
Living the dream, and you?
I'm living your dreams. You know, it's time you give your good friend John LaBoot the real boot and let him find a liberal station to expound upon his problems with President Trump. He talks about the fact that he was never a real Republican. Well, what the heck is his definition of a real Republican? Because I don't think anyone really knows what the definition is. Many Republicans have become way too moderate, and it has been going on for the past 30 years since Reagan. Trump's turned this country around the past year, and I mean 180 degrees, so that we are finally heading in the right direction of prosperity and conservatism. I'm not sure what John LaBoot has been drinking or smoking in the morning these days, but he better stop before he becomes totally stupid. Trump is more of a Republican than any of those that we currently have in this country or in our Congress, and more conservative. What people don't understand is the guy's a deal maker, and that's what he's been doing for the past year. You know, we've watched this president cruise through the first year, cutting rules and regulations, securing the borders, bringing back jobs, cutting taxes. Excuse me, but let's go back and look at John LaBoot's record when he was in office. And I'm sure you're not going to find a glimmer of what Trump has accomplished. And the only reason you're going to see any change in our legislature this year is because we've got an election coming up for primaries in May.
Right, but another vote to boot the boot.
You know, a lot of these legislators that we have here, even in Idaho, they have these nice cushy jobs and these stipends that they get and the gifts that they get. They don't want to lose those jobs. So, yeah, we're going to see some changes in the way they vote. But I think it's finally time that we can change our legislature. We can get the House back into a conservative mode. So let's hope everybody goes to the polls this time. We don't see 27% of the electorate going out there to vote. Instead, maybe we see 60 or 70%.
Before we
Love
get to
your
that,
show, Kevin.
Before you go there, Tea Party Bob from the Gem State Patriot at KIDO Talk Radio, let's get down to some big issues. We talked about the possible castle doctrine. We talked about the repeal of the grocery tax. Do you think that'll happen, considering this is a historic year in Idaho politics? The end of Butch Otter. Not only that, but you've got a lot of people that will not seek re-election. You've got people that are running for other offices, so they will vacate their seats. Could be a lot of turnover. So, are we gonna see the same usual run out the clock? Gee, sorry, we didn't get to the big issues. And if there's something uncomfortable, we'll put it in the last minute so the legislature can't answer the governor.
Well, you're going to see the grocery tax pass. That I do believe is going to happen. And there's a good chance we can get parts of the castle doctrine through. Although it just depends on, you know, where these guys are hanging their hat on the so-called internal gun committee. As far as some of the other things go, I'm not so sure. I think they're going to try to hold the line. I don't think that the governor's going to do anything much as far as taxes go. I don't think he has the latitude to do that. I also am going to agree with you. We are going to see a very dramatic change in the legislature, and I think we're going to see a lot more conservatives enter into the offices. And I think we can turn our House at least conservative. We still have some problems with the Senate, or as I call them, the multicultural Republicans, who really don't want the name but have to if they want to get elected. So I am looking for some change. I don't expect it to come from the administrative part of the government. It's going to come from the legislature because I think they are determined enough now to make the changes necessary. The one thing I am concerned about is they're going to try to put in Medicaid expansion. And how can a group of these legislators, after 3 years of trying to do it, think they actually have a way to do it now if they've failed for 3 years?
Yeah,
I think it's time to leave it alone and let the new governor do it.
All right, I can't see them doing that just because the tide has changed, but we'll see how that plays out.
Thank you, Kevin, for a great show again.
Thank you, Tea Party Bob, for listening.
Have a great day.
You too. Our great friend Tea Party Bob joining us. Phone numbers here, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. So we've had people that are not satisfied with our friend John LeBoutelier. They say give him the boot. You can call in now at 580-5436. In addition to that, getting back to the legislature, and Tea Party Bob is always fired up about this, but, you know, we really don't know what's going to happen. That's why we'll have House Minority Leader Matt Erpelding on tomorrow in the 7 o'clock hour. We'll get his thoughts on what he sees, his review and commentary of the governor's schedule. By the way, A.J. Belukoff, as you heard from Maggie, and it's kind of been one of the worst-kept secrets ever, running for governor again, what that means in the race to succeed Governor Otter. But getting back to this legislative season, if the grocery tax gets repealed, that means real relief for real Idahoans. And the idea of cutting taxes, as we've heard from Lieutenant Governor Brad Little, we've heard from Dr. Tommy Ahlquist, we've heard from Congressman Labrador, the people running for governor, they all want to alleviate the tax burden. They all have different ways of doing it, different plans and such. But this is going to be the year for politics. You know, as I was saying, it's unfortunate that, well, look, let me just give you this.
Go enjoy your beer and ride your ATV and watch sports. We'll run the country.
Now, we don't want to criticize our brothers and sisters in sports media, but look at the attention sports gets as opposed to politics. And sports is a welcome distraction from politics. But clearly there needs to be more effort in figuring out what's going on, right? Jim in Boise with Kevin Miller at KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Jim.
Morning. Here's a vote for LeBoutelier. Now, I mean, you can disagree with him like those other two callers did, but if you believe in free speech, then anyway, listen to him. I thought he was entertaining and knowledgeable.
So right now it's 2 votes, give LeBout the boot, 1 vote to keep him.
Right. In fact, polish the boy's boot.
Jim, your thoughts on the state legislature?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I've been here 30 some odd years, but I'm not, dug in Idahoan, and I really don't have any connection, and, I wouldn't have the slightest idea. Now, okay, I like Labrador and the 555 thing. That sounds good. So.
Well, you seem more enthusiastic about John LeBoutelier than.
Well, I guess like maybe a lot of people, maybe more national or international news is more exciting than state news.
It usually is. It usually is. Okay,
anyway,
Jim.
I hear your guys won the big football game.
Yes, they did. And as Jeff the Suit always says, you live in Idaho, not Alabama. But yeah, it was just a little national championship game happened the other night.
Speaking of radio, now I don't get cable, so I didn't watch it, but I got to listen to good old play-by-play on ESPN radio. Now that's the way to go.
Nothing like spending time listening to great college football action on the radio.
Yep, I mean an announcer on the radio. I mean those guys have to have talent. So. Yeah,
no, you're very correct on that. Very, very well on the talent index. Jim, thank you for that.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. And Kevin Miller in the morning here, KIDO Talk Radio. A topic that we started the program with, and we'll continue talking about it for quite some time, the apparent suicide of former state legislator Brandon Hickson. Brandon, of course, leaving behind his family and have been through some troubled waters. In fact, believe it or not, there's a link on Drudge about it as well. And, you know, I was watching Channel 7 last night, and as Maggie O'Mara was saying here, to us, you know, we need to use this as a lesson to understand how difficult suicide is. You know, I've heard Glenn Beck talk about suicide and contemplating suicide, and how many of us have been through the dark, the night, when we think to ourselves, you know, what is there? What is left? And, you know, looking at the piece in some of the papers, people are saying, well, Brandon Hickson, Representative Hickson, you know, didn't really do much in the legislature. In fact, that's in one published piece. He served without distinction. I disagree on that. The Brandon Hickson that I knew, and I met him right when I came to the Treasure Valley, right when I got off the boat from east of the Great River, and I saw a young man who was a hustler, who wanted to improve himself, wanted to improve the life of his constituents, and was all about that. Now, again, none of us are perfect. And look, I lost my best friend in high school to suicide. He's with me each and every day, my friend Phil, and I miss him. And the people that you leave behind. You know, life is very precious. I'm glad that we have the Idaho Suicide Prevention Hotline. We have these numbers and such, but you know, it's the whole idea of see something, say something. But I go back to Representative Hickson. And yes, he had the issues where being pulled over, and he had the court dates and everything else. But remember, what was it? It wasn't 4 years ago. I think must have been 4 years ago. I think I guess it was when Mitt Romney was running. It's a little over 4 years ago, where we had the Republican presidential caucus. And as I said earlier in the hour, the things I remember about that, Brandon Hickson running around organizing this thing so people would pay attention to the state of Idaho in presidential primary politics. And Tom Luna and his family not only working the event, but staying after to clean up. And I go, wow, that's grassroots politics. But here's a young man that, along with others, helped organize that thing. And a lot of people weren't happy with it from the beginning. They were happy with the results, where you had people actually in the national media focusing in on Idaho and people engaged. And remember, you went to the caucus, you put that was Brandon Hickson and others that put that together. Now, again, when you sign up for public service, it's almost like you should, you know, they should also give you, when they give you your pin, you also get that title, Kick Me. I get it. But here's a young man that stepped up. He had some unflattering stories about him in the paper, but the guy continued on. He had to step down. You have the investigation and everything else. And the guy persevered. And apparently the demons became too much for him. So our prayers are with him, his family, and his friends. And that's not the usual media, blah, blah, blah. That's sincere. That's legit. And if you're having a rough time, as someone who has been there, you know, God is the answer. Friends are the answer. You know, people will miss you, just like we'll miss Representative Hickson. So, again, I know this is a tough time. I can't imagine what his family is going through and his constituents. The lesson here, hopefully, that we can save some lives, save your life, to save my life. It is 34 right now. Time for traffic and weather together, 8:58. And we so appreciate you listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Don't forget, we've got a great lineup here. You've got Glenn Beck, Dave Ramsey, Sean Hannity, and the newest addition to the KIDO Talk Radio family, Lars Larson, giving us a Northwest conservative perspective. Weeknights after Sean Hannity. If you haven't listened, I urge you to give him a shot if you're thinking, oh, I don't like change. And believe me, I do not like change. But I will tell you, Lars gives you the big issues and the understanding and the back and forth that you don't get with a lot of hosts. and the sound quality is excellent. Graham Meyer, we appreciate you. Thank you very much for a great job. Kevin Miller wishing you good day, God bless, and keep the faith.